Hi again, I'm Adam Dietrich, and welcome back to part 2 of our 12-part series, What You Should Be Doing Right Now. Last month we showed you how to do a chimney inspection and determined that our chimney was in need of sweeping. Let's take a look at how that process was done. Last month we conducted a chimney inspection and determined that our chimney did in fact need cleaned. This month I will show you how that chimney clean was performed. First things first, let's talk safety. We need to begin with a cold wood stove with the fire completely out to prevent smoke and carbon monoxide from building up indoors. Work gloves are vital. It can be very easy to slice one's hand when working with stovepipe. Long sleeves are a plus as well. It is also important that you protect your lungs from airborne soot. Wear some sort of breathable mask, even if it's just a bandana. Eye protection is also a plus, but I chose to forego mine as both my safety glasses and my face shield would not stay unfogged in the cold. Eye protection that obstructs your view is not safe. To help keep soot out of the air, we attached some plastic around the chimney opening. This particular insulation has an 8-inch chimney reduced down to a 6-inch stovepipe to match the wood stove. If you don't have such a reducer, it's much easier to attach the plastic if you leave the top segment of the stovepipe in place and attach the plastic to the outside of it. Once your plastic is in place, cut it to length and place a pail of some kind below it to catch the soot that you will knock loose. We began with our 8-inch brush on just one extension. Once the brush was in the chimney, we started sweeping by using an up and down pumping motion. As the brush went up the chimney, we added more extensions. We also kept an eye on the progress of the brush, taking care not to slam it into the chimney cap. Once the brush reached the top, we started bringing it back down using the same pumping motion. After removing the brush, we had a good look up the chimney to ensure that the creosote was sufficiently removed. If you find that creosote remains, simply repeat the brushing process. Next, we turned our attention to the stovepipe. This is a process best done either out on the sidewalk or in the garage. We started by removing the damper and placing the pipe firmly on the cement floor. We used a 6-inch brush to sweep the stovepipe using the same motion we used on the chimney. Then we flipped it over and did it again from the other end. Finally, we cleaned all of our chimney accessories, including the flue, damper, and chimney reducer. For the reducer, we had to use both the 6-inch and 8-inch brushes. Also, now is a good time to check the inside of your flue for any loose soot that needs removed. A vacuum works well for this. With our chimney sparkling clean, we reassembled it and had ourselves a test fire. When you think of cutting wood, probably the first thing that comes to mind is the chainsaw. While the chainsaw is literally the driving force, it is the chain that does the real work. Let's watch as one of these chains is sharpened using an electric chain grinder. There was a time that the hand file was the only option when sharpening a chain. These days, there are attachments that fit both cordless drills and rotary tools, and of course, there is the electric chain grinder. Before sharpening your chain, ensure that you have equipped the grinder with the correct grinding wheel for the pitch of your chain. The grinder manual should have this information. Also, you may wish to clean the chain with a cleaner degreaser, especially if you cut a lot of sap-heavy softwoods. Soak the chain in cleaner and then remove any gunk using a stiff brush. Place the chain between the guides with the tooth to be sharpened firmly against the stop. As with any other chain sharpening method, start with the most worn tooth. Secure the chain by tightening the guide clamp. Next, set the angle of the chain grinder to match that of your chain. Before switching on the grinder, lower the disc to the chain and ensure that everything is set properly. When grinding your chain, apply only light pressure. Grinding too aggressively can overheat the metal, causing it to weaken and to become brittle. The teeth will not hold an edge well and may even break. Once you have sharpened the first tooth, loosen the guide clamp and advance the chain until you reach the next tooth of the same angle. Secure the chain in the guide as before and repeat until all the teeth on that side of the chain have been sharpened. Once you finish the first side of your chain, readjust the angle to match the teeth on the opposite side. Sharpen the second side using the same process as the first. Next, use a depth gauge tool to ensure that your depth gauges, also known as rakers or drags, are low enough. If they are not, simply file them down with a flat file, or you can use your chain grinder again. After filing each raker, round off its leading edge. Once the chain is sharpened, give it a quick dunk in oil to keep the fresh edges from rusting. Your chain is now ready to be used. It is the dead of winter, and most wood burners would agree that this is the time to burn the good stuff. Let's have a closer look at what makes the good stuff good. Oak, locust, hickory, mulberry. These are some of the kings of wood, the good stuff that you save for the coldest times of the year. But what is it that makes the good stuff so good? And how can you determine what your top-notch stuff is? You can find numerous BTU comparison charts, both in print and online. When comparing different species of wood, it is best to pick one chart and stick with it, only consulting other charts if you come across a species not listed. Essentially, these charts measure a wood's density by drying it to a given moisture content and then weighing it. If one type of wood weighs more than an equal volume of another type of wood, the first wood is denser and receives a higher BTU rating. Even the best varieties of hardwood will be difficult to light and will burn poorly if they are not properly dried or seasoned. To season firewood, you must cut, split, and stack it in the open sun and air. Wood that is left in log form, or even in rounds, will not season quickly. Some wood may even rot before it dries if it is not split. Eventually, the moisture content will come down to about 20%, and your wood will be ready to burn. Different species take different amounts of time to get fully seasoned. A wood that has been properly dried is better than a wood that is wet or green. If you cut, split, and stack a cord of maple and a cord of oak the same day, and leave them both to fully season for a year, you will find that the maple will give a fine burn and will produce a lot of heat. The oak, on the other hand, will be difficult to light, will smoke a lot, and will burn poorly. This is because maple fully seasons in a year, while the superior oak typically takes 3. Even the best woods will seem inferior if you try to burn them before they are properly seasoned. Getting a good load into your wood stove goes hand in hand with what we already discussed about density and BTU ratings. It stands to reason that when filling your firebox, any gaps left unoccupied effectively lowers the BTU potential of your load. For this reason, you will find the really good stuff to be straight, regularly shaped splits cut to the length of your firebox. It is also worth noting that bigger splits typically burn hotter and longer due to the reduction of air gaps when compared to smaller splits. But realistically, you will need a combination of larger and smaller splits to most efficiently fill your firebox. It may also be in your best interest to load your stove with a mixture of your good stuff and a few pieces of softer woods. The softer woods typically catch fire easier and gas off quicker, raising the temperature of the firebox, causing the denser woods to become aflame faster than they would on their own. Let's put it all together now. The good stuff is a high BTU wood that is fully seasoned, regularly shaped, cut to the length of your firebox, and comes in a mixture of sizes so that it can be loaded into your stove with as few air gaps as possible. Now that you know what the good stuff is, put it to use keeping your place warm this cold winter. I will leave you now with our final segment, and urge to enjoy the last heavy burning of the year. I hope you've enjoyed our series so far, and I will see you again in March. It is February and it is cold, very cold. But there is a light at the end of winter's tunnel, and spring really is on the way even though it doesn't seem like it. February is your last great hurrah. After this it's shoulder season, and then the stove goes cold and the cat lays on it, wondering what happened to the fire. Soon there will be no more hot coals, no morning fires. We will have to go back to making coffee using electric appliance and the kitchen range for breakfast, and lunch and dinner too, at least until barbecue season, which has already begun for some of our colder-blooded members. The lesson here is to appreciate what there is left of winter, because you know you are going to miss it, just like you miss the chainsaw and the splitter now. But there will be another winter coming up in the not-too-distant future. I promise.